According to the cloud, here we go. All right, so this is the July 5th Fuck Shit Up meeting. Thank you very much for those of you that could come. There may be people joining late. There will be people who need to leave early. If you weren't here, I think Jennifer, you might not have been here. I'm assuming this is only going to be about an hour long today. Jo Beth has an appointment. I have to get my hair did. But the idea is to have at least the initial conversation to kind of formalize what this thing is. Because based on the bylaws of the organization, this isn't even a formal committee. This is just a semi feral group of people that I get onto Zoom every once in a while to talk about something. So now that we're in kind of our third year, the idea is moving into the fourth year for this to be part of how USBG runs and what it does, and it's part of a resource, I guess I should say, for the national board, all the different committees, all the different task force, and even the foundation to be able to have members at large, objectively outsider punch holes in whatever they think is dangerously close to a final. Or like the last meeting that we had, Ingrid came from the conflict resolution committee to talk about a problem they're having in the committee, and they were looking for outside perspectives who again aren't kind of mired in the sausage making. um there you go. That's kind of my thoughts or comments for the conversation today. Again, Jennifer, I think you weren't on just yet, but this is Jeffrey's first call, so we're not doing any hazing. Raul's already given him his flowers.
I went to college and I'm used to hazing, so it has to happen. It has to happen. So
Oh, see, I am like a anti-hazing consultant, so it would be hypocritical of me. So no hazing.
okay, heard.
Sorry, you're good. If anything, I've been hazed because I had to understand like the power of hearing the word "heard," like that means something. Um, Welcome to my life. I am an outsider. Um, all right. So, first off, I guess my first open question would be for I'm going to start with Jennifer and then Alina and then Jo Beth as kind of the OGs, the originals of what has become the Fuck Shit Up Committee. What do you think, if you were describing it in like the most formal way to another association, right, that has nothing to do with USBG, how would you describe the role that the Fuck Shit Up Committee plays? What does it do? What is it? What comes up for you? So I'll start with Jennifer, and then I'll go to Alina, and then Jo Beth. Jennifer, what do you think is the charter mission, so to speak, of the Fuck Shit Up Committee?
Well, yikes. I hadn't prepared anything.
I know that's the whole bonus, right? No, y'all
Right?
don't want homework in between calls, so surprise is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you were saying, since we're not making the sausage, we're just assessing the sausage. I would say we're an unbiased and an unattached committee reviewing processes of the organization.
Great, that sounds amazing.
Good.
Alina, what are your thoughts or comments about what would eventually be the purpose, the mission, the cause, the functionality of what is now called the Fuck Shit Up Committee?
Honestly, I kind of feel like we're the little moral compass of this grander organization. And often the last thing in line to be like, oh no, that is a bad idea. We cannot do that. Because sometimes, things go into a committee and people have their own biases and aren't considering something. And we are a really good filter to make sure that things that should never be done don't get done.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I love the moral compass idea. Jo Beth, what about you?
I had a few moments to be able to kind of think of something, um, although it didn't really fully shape. But I would say that we are a group of members of a larger organization that is able to lend a discerning eye to different functions that occur, different failings that may have occurred that we want to remedy, and just give an overall different viewpoint from the national view.
Mm-hmm. Often contrarian, outsider. Is that what you meant?
People who are not afraid to speak up about institutionalized changes that need to be made.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Raul, I'm curious for you as a relatively newish member of the Fuck Shit Up committee, but also because you wear so many other hats, either with health and wellness, specifically the work you've done with the NCC, and as the national board. Do you have thoughts, comments, ideas of what the role is or could be?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit of what Joe Beff said in terms of trying to seek out the contrarian review or a point of view, and not to say it's always contrarian. Maybe you do something that's completely aligned and everybody loves it, but you know, it's kind of looking for that contrarian view. We built this thing. Now, can we put it up to the test and scrutiny of maybe somebody outside the bubble, right? Almost like when you get a car and you put it through a storm simulator. You know what I mean? You throw everything at it and see if it still stands. It's kind of where I, see it being really effective.
Awesome. That's cool. So Brandon just joined us, and I think, Brandon, this may also be your first meeting for the Fuck Shit Up committee. Is that correct?
No,
No, it's not. Okay.
it's not. I fucked shit up. Good
sorry?
morning, though. I said I fucked shit up. Good morning, though.
Oh, perfect. No, I love it. There's fucking shit up in the regular thing and then this weird context. So the idea of today, and just so you know, Jeffrey, I'm coming for you for like first timer perspective, and then Brandon, I'll come back for you. But one of the topic that we're talking about today is the first conversation in reference to kind of formalizing what happens in this space, this fuck shit up space, so that based on the bylaws, in order to be an institutionalized committee or task force of the United States Bartenders Guild, there needs to be like a charter that explains the mission. There's like, how does the meeting work? Who comes? How do members come? How do you kick people off the group? How do you add people to the group? In order to be kind of seen as equal footing of other committees or task forces. Right now, the Fuck Shit Up committee has just been this kind of box of feral cats. And so I wanted to spend today kind of initiating the conversation around what would that look like if we had a formal mission. What wouldn't it look like is also just as relevant. And so anybody's perspective, no matter how many of these meetings you've been on, are all super helpful. We have heard like moral compass from Alina. We've heard contrarian, also not contrarian, kind of bias checker. I think that kind of sums up some of the examples that we have come up with so far. Jeffrey, I'm curious for you, since it's your first meeting, welcome, and again, no hazing, but what did you hear about it? What did you think about it? What did you think it did before you got here?
I knew absolutely nothing about it until Jennifer O'Blennis and I went out to dinner one day because she said, "What do you have against the USBG?" And I listed her about 1,000 fucking things. Mm-hmm. So I was part of it when I used to live here in New Orleans. And then I was part of it when I was in Arizona. And then that's pretty much where I started to have a falling out. I was part of the OBG chapter in Oregon, which is part of the United States Bartenders Guild, but they're rather autonomous. But it still sort of ran on the same, hey, let's get together, let's talk about this product, and let's get fucked up. And when we talk about education within bartenders and stuff like that, you're not really getting education, you're just taught how to sell things. If you want to know what the build is or what or where it's being made, or what the mash bill is and stuff like that, there are other things that can be taught, but it's not just a selling point of like, our shit's really good, here's 3 drinks that we can make, and then everybody get fucked up afterwards. So I'm tired of that shit. I really, really am. And she was like, well, we need that view to move forward basically with the USBG as a national. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a look and see what I can contribute. And then I just saw on my phone that Jackie Summers is on there, and that's my homie. So I'm like, all right. So yeah, here's a picture of me so everybody knows what I look like. I'm just sitting here in a pile of 45s trying to get them organized so I can put them away. Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi. Great. And I think I said this earlier, but Jackie is responsible for, at least as far as I'm concerned, calling it the Fuck Shit Up Committee first. I am all for that staying the title of the group. My favorite part is that it makes some people very uncomfortable, but it is like the best descriptor of who we are looking for and what we do, right? For some context, and maybe Jeffrey, you don't even know this. So I'm an outside consultant, definitely not I don't work in hospitality. I'm not even really that nice of a person. But I know. Maybe I should get a job in hospitality.
Yeah, Jeff will fit right in. He's not super nice either.
Perfect. So I do diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting work, primarily with corporate or association-based clients. So the USBG has been one of my clients for almost 4 years. And the idea, at least the approach I do to DEI, is that it's different. It's more than just physical representation and education and training. It's actually about embedding a way of really checking biases on all arms of the organization. And it's actually been a really cool contract of mine. Talking to me for 5 minutes about the Bartender Guild, like, it's pretty obvious that this group actually wants to do something radically different than bullshit checkbox DEI training. So then my scope has kind of gone all over the place. But one of the first things that we were able to implement pre-COVID was this committee with the ability of anything before it gets passed has the opportunity to go through members at large, to have any of the assumptions challenged, biases challenged, questions asked. And sometimes, and I would even say, again, as the outsider, with the Ingrid conversation that we had before, it wasn't June, is May. And then the month before that, the conversation we had about membership, specifically with Cole and Colleen, I think it's also really helpful for the national board members who are presenting the topics to realize what kind of your average member doesn't know, right? So like when Ingrid came to talk specifically about like this particular piece of a conversation that was happening, a lot of the conversation was, what is the conflict resolution committee? How does it work? How does it work on a chapter level? How does it work on a national level? And so I think that also pushes back up there that y'all are working on this thing, and this larger piece of work needs to occur still. So I think the conversation goes both ways. So with that stated, Brandon, I want to see if you have any thoughts or comments about what, from your vantage point, either before or since your tenure on the Fuck Shit Up, what is its mission? What does it do from your perspective?
Ideally, in my opinion, I think we should kind of be a sounding board for national policies, just as like a cheesecloth, like some sort of filter through. Which I think that membership meeting we had was enlightening in several ways, but that was like good. Had the national board member heard some of our thoughts and concerns and issues before doing what they did with membership, I think it would have changed dramatically. Now we wouldn't be in a position of like trying to fix
that. Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's hard to know backwards.
Did that work? Can you hear me? I can't
tell. The changes.
Okay, sweet.
The changes of membership did go through kind of this car wash at the time, and there's different people in it, different conversation pieces in it too. So you can never go through the car wash too many times, right?
Why is the internet crapping out?
Karma. I did put into the chat, for those of you that are able to access a Google Doc, I am a super nerd and have gathered all of the notes over the last 4 years of any like tangential conversation I have had with anyone connected to Fuck Shit Up as a topic or on the committee. I've gathered notes of kind of what could be beginning places of talking about what a charter is, how does it work, how often does it meet, who becomes members, how do you kick members off, to kind of institutionalize it. The irony of institutionalizing a Fuck Shit Up committee is not lost on me. I do want that to be noted. But to be so that it's not dependent on me, I want to make sure that it becomes part of the culture of USBG and how it and the foundation function, so that everyone just knows that before you pass something, it goes through the car wash. Or if you have a question that we're all stumped on, well, the car wash is available. I think the second year, which might have been the year of COVID hitting, so most of that year we didn't meet, the Fuck Shit Up committee was referred to as the Bridge Strategic Advisory Group. Again, this is kind of like bylaws talk. Bridge stands for, is the acronym that articulates the diversity, equity, and inclusion belonging initiative that is on every task force, every committee, NCC, chapter levels, etc. So that's where that language kind of came from. But functionally, it began to be like culturally referred to as the Fuck Shit Up committee, and I'm just listening to the members, so that's why we call it the FSU now. So I wanted to share this with you just as kind of a gathering of spaces. I would love for, I don't know if y'all can tell me, but who all has, there's at least 3 people logged into the document currently, but I want you to be able to make comments, add, put this in like normal people language as well and not like bylaw speak. But for those of you that are new to one of my Google Doc activities, I ask that you don't completely delete something, but you just add to it or add to it in a different color or make a comment so that I can see kind of the history of everything that's happening with the document. The idea is to end this year's Fuck Shit Up with a actual charter and process to turn that to the national board for adoption. But I feel like we'll have to do this in like bits and pieces. So I thought this would be kind of the introductory conversation. There's 4 people in the document now. Who all is able to look at it? Or I guess maybe it's a shorter list of who isn't able to look at it. Jo Beth.
I'm on it.
Brandon is on it. Jo Beth, you're waving. Is that for it or not for it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Great.
I'm on it as well.
Great. So then I think the other person would then be either, I can't see it on the chat. Oh, I think I can share it, Raul, with you via email. Let me see if I can do that really quick. Can anybody else not see it? Is copy like heard? I'm such an asshole. Yep. Jennifer or Alina, do you need me to email you direct access?
No, I have it. I'm good.
Okay. Great. Jennifer, do you need it or you got it?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm looking through my emails and I'm not seeing it.
Oh, it's not. I haven't emailed it to anybody yet. I just put the link in the chat, but I will email it to you currently. So then okay, so Raul and Jennifer, you both should have the email access now. And then when we send out the recording and or the minutes that probably no one reads, we'll include the link to this so that people might want to play with it in between appointments. No, you're never going to do that either. But it's a starting place and that's what you pay me for. I'll hold on to it. Then that'll go out via email. I'll do that part, Jo Beth. And then if you want to, you can send a text message to people saying, stay tuned. Just sent an email. Go remember you have an email. Okay. So I wanted to kind of kickstart that. I think some of the language that was shared earlier is almost, I mean, for lack of better words, imperative to include. I think Raul, I had said contrarian and you were like, it's not always contrarian. Like sometimes it's actually supportive. I think that those kind of things are actually really empowering to the committee members, task force, some of the NCC folks that I've worked with, because a lot of people often feel like I'm just making this up. I don't know. And then it goes through the members at large and fuck shit up, and they're like, oh my God, other people understood what I was talking about. They like this. So I think that that is also important. Alina, your talk or mention of the kind of moral compass, I really like that language, and I think that that aligns well with checking positive or negative biases. Jeffrey, to your point, I want to make sure that the and Brandon, I guess too, the my language frustration that members experience, I want to make sure that this, for lack of better words, is a really productive place for that perspective and energy, because instead of just losing people, we want to encourage people to stay involved in a hypercritical way that's actually useful, right? Instead of just kind of navel gazing and bitching about something. Like there things can be fixed and changed if you have the right space to do it, and this space could be that space.
Heard. I mean, I'm going through for the nonprofit that I work for, well, just finished up DEI training myself, and just trying to take that language and put it into what I speak more often, is because the DEI training that we got was rather corporate. And I already am soured against that anyway, but I do understand that this is necessary for the organization that I work for us to keep moving forward and also expanding to other cities. So I can go in between saying, you know, the corporate speak, and also saying, yeah, fuck that shit, I'm not with it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Other thoughts or comments, or those of you that are in the doc, is anything just stand out at you immediately as like blech? I think some of it is like wildly not specific to the broad role of fuck shit up anymore, but 4 years ago were the kind of, for lack of better words, challenging topics that people knew needed to go through a car wash. So the charter would actually, like, that's just an example of some of the conversations, thinking specifically about the when we talked about flagging people and how they become back into members. If we go back even years further, of changing, Jeffrey, you may not know this, but there was a conversation specific to past dues that really was never implemented. Like, no one, if you stopped being a member and then wanted to be a member again, there was a clause in one of the governing documents that said you might be charged the fees of the gap in order to continue your membership, and like that was dumb, and it's just
fuck.
I mean, to be completely honest, in like, it made sense in the time that it was written because that was actually considered a best practice, but that's totally not ever been done. So then that language was shifted and changed so that that's not even there anymore because of a conversation that came out of this group. It wasn't even noticed that it was in there because it was never practiced. But just because it's never practiced, it should also not be documented that it could be practiced, right? So that was a result of something. Same thing with the code of conduct and those kind of pieces. Jennifer, your hand is up. You're muted if you're talking.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm on my phone, so I'm trying to like keep the document open, and then I got to go back and forth. And anyway, I just think I see what looks like an error. It says under governance that we would create policies and initiatives, but one of the things that we as a group have always said is that we don't create anything.
Yep. Yeah. So again, this is the original language of possibilities from like 4 years ago. So
sure.
It's a lot easier, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to edit, like, we don't fucking do that, than it is to start with a blank document, right? So anything that ever came up that could be related to what is now called the FSU does, I've added to this place. So you are welcome to like make a comment like, by the way, we don't do this. The governance and org health kind of mindset. One is there probably needs to be a piece of the Fuck Shit Up charter that is about how is this group governed, right? Like there really isn't a chair, and there isn't like a co-chair, there isn't a a secretary, there aren't those kind of rules. Pretty much since its inception, I have facilitated the conversations, and then when it became really clear that I cannot keep up with all of the individual texting that is needed, Jean helped last year, and then Jo Beth is helping this year with the communication and like reminding people when the meetings are. So that would be kind of the governance structure of Fuck Shit Up itself. Does that make sense? Is this too meta of a conversation? And then how do you know, when you talk about organization health, how does the Fuck Shit Up committee know that it is doing a good job? How does the committee self-monitor itself to know that it is healthy and that it's helpful and that it's playing a positive role in the foundation and the guild itself? That's how I would alter that language so that it's actually about what this group is doing versus what this group is not making policy for the foundation or the guild, but this group could literally, this nebulous group of people that don't belong to an official committee or task force, we are going to create at least some strong recommendations of how this group should be structured and should work. I don't know if that's helpful. Jason, welcome to the call. I think your audio is still connecting. I don't know if that means you can hear me or not. Alina, you got a question?
Not really a question. I'm just like thinking about what maybe makes sense institutionally as like how this group would be structured, and started thinking about it more as like an open forum that happens regularly rather than a set committee with set members, and maybe that making sense as this being maybe like a monthly forum that's open to members at large in order to continue this review process.
Sure. So that's a great example of like an idea for a structure. I would love to see that occur, and I'd love to see it occur in like a healthy, functional, big turnouty kind of regular way. I would be curious to see how to kind of get the word out about the forum in a way that would be successful. Not to poo-poo the idea, because I think in an ideal world that's exactly what it should be, but the turnout at the open office hours, when I went to all the regional conferences this year, and it was interesting that a lot of people knew about the office hours, which was already very exciting. A lot of people knew about Fuck Shit Up as well, which I thought was exciting, but there were still a ton of people who had never heard of either of them, and not very many people show up to the office hours. So then this year we tried to do a smaller committee of specific people to target for the Fuck Shit Up. Instead of having 30 people and a bunch of national board members, we have one national board member, and then really tried to focus on members at large who aren't necessarily in a leadership position within their chapter. And so I think we have, Jo Beth, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think maybe there's less than 20 total people on the list this year. But we typically have 6 or 7 people who show up to the organized committee meetings, right? So it would be great if it could be an open forum and still be productive, but there's like I would be curious how the turnout would be, and then like if this is Jeffrey's first time, I try to name kind of what the culture is inside this group and what's going to happen inside this group. And maybe that's not necessary to do kind of an orientation every time, but at least this year, every call we've had someone that it was their very first meeting. So I would be curious to see how that could be advertised. And eventually, I think that might be the way to go for sure. Jason, your audio seems to be on, so I'm going to share with you in the chat a Google Doc that we're kind of working on. Raul, I also saw your comments and that you're in a noisy place. A mission statement is ultimately what we are shooting for a charter for the group itself, just to follow as the other committees and task force are designed to be institutionalized in the bylaws, for lack of better words, of the guild and the foundation. So what does it do? What is the mission? What is the charter of the group? Is this is kind of the starting place of that conversation, because without that, it's not actually able to be an institutionalized committee. It's still kind of a feral elective that I do as a consultant, and I don't want this process to be dependent on me. It needs to be institutionalized inside the organization. So Raul, for those of you that can't see the chat, Raul said a mission statement could be a touchstone and a space to determine what an official charter could look like. Totally on the right page. Jess, the feral consultant. Yes, that's true. I should put that on my website. So, Jason, were you able to get access to the Google Doc?
Oh yeah, I'm reading through it right now.
Oh, fantastic. So just to kind of explain what we're doing is, from your perspective, the Fuck Shit Up Committee, what is it? What does it do? How is it structured? How do you know you're doing a good job? How do you know you're healthy? How do you recruit new members? How do you hold those members accountable if in any way? If it's an open forum, to Alina's point, there's no accountability. Just whoever shows up is great. That's an option. How do you know when someone is being dysfunctional or disruptive? If it's an open forum that fucks shit up, that's kind of by design. So then at what point is too much disruption, right? Like, that's a discussion to be having. So I thought we would spend this hour together today to kind of map out some of our initial thoughts, and then maybe possibly in the least favorite back burner of your mind, it can kind of simmer and you can think about it, and then I'll send out this Google Doc, and then as you have thoughts, you can kind of add to it. And then later on, we have another meeting scheduled in August already, and then I think I have to do another doodle dance. But then maybe later in the fall, we can actually finalize that mission statement and charter and structure. So I've never been called feral AF. I take this as a compliment.
I'm trying to type in here kind of, excuse me, what you were saying, Elena, what like acts as the moral compass of the, and then we can expand into there.
Of the guild and foundation.
Guild, okay.
Oh, so we are actually working with the foundation as well? That's always been a hazy relationship.
I think that is probably the best descriptor of my experience with the foundation. So the foundation itself is a hazy relationship to itself, if that makes any sense. So none of this is a official language, and Raul, if you have official things to say, please feel free. But from my outsider perspective, the foundation wasn't aware of what it could do for a very, very long period of time, that since its existence, until COVID hit. And then the language that I've been using in my conversations is the foundation was able to do the impossible, and now it needs to figure out how it will intentionally do what is possible. So it's still really working. Like, it just has its first full board. What is that board doing? What's the strategic plan of that board? But the Fuck Shit Up Committee, it should be a resource and tool for all arms related to the guild and the foundation. So in theory, yes, What would that look like? Don't know. What wouldn't it look like is just as valuable of a question, and I don't know, and I don't know that they know either. So that's why from this group are the kind of recommendations, and then my guess is that these recommendations would go to the National Guild Board and the Foundation Board, and they would probably add to it, and or it would inform those strategic plans related to how they use this as a tool. But that conversation has to initiate from somewhere, and so I think it makes more sense to initiate from the Fuck Shit Up group than down to the Fuck Shit Up group, because the whole point of the Fuck Shit Up group is to fuck shit up upwards, if that makes sense.
Fuck shit upwards.
Fuck shit upwards.
I like it.
Okay. I think disruption is the intent, but disruption without productivity is too much disruption. Excellent. So then, like, me being a pain in the ass is how would you know that something is being productive or something is not being productive, right? Like, again, you're not going to come up with the answers today, but these are things to really think about. Those of you that have been in other meetings, there's a number of meetings that I would say a typical meeting would say that they were unproductive, but we actually got a lot of really good stuff done. Even if it was just community building within the group, or kind of norming what these calls are like, especially when it was brand new. Very few brand new committees come up with like a code of conduct, a reviewed membership plan, a review payment plan, in alliance with what a whole new governing plan does. Like, very few organizations have access to those big changes. In those initial conversations we had in that first year, and then very few organizations planned for the massive disruption that was COVID to the entire industry, let alone to the association's plans. So now we're kind of like building back out of that, and still being asked thoughts and opinions.
I guess what I'm trying to say in that little sentence is I'm trying to delineate between venting and the proper disruption that we have. Because if you're venting and there is no talk about how we change whatever the issue is, then it's not productive. So that's
great. Sounds great.
I muted myself, but I'm laughing right now.
Other thoughts or comments or anything coming out from kind of what you're reading? I would assume it might lead to actually questions that other people in the group might answer.
DUI, DWI, marijuana may have racial impacts.
Yes, that was an example of a discussion that was had in like the first and the second year, I believe. Please remind me when we actually talked about this, if y'all remember, was how racism intersects with these particular charges, and ensuring that just because you've had those charges doesn't mean you can't apply for chapter leadership, which again, these are all notes pulled from like 4 years of conversation. So instead of that wouldn't necessarily go into the charter mission as much as it was notes from having a conversation of how somebody who has some kind of felony record or criminal record isn't unable to run for any kind of leadership position, and what that means and how background checks work, but then also really acknowledging how this intersects with race, class, etc. I don't remember.
I think may have is a little bit too broad of a generalization. It does have effects. Yeah. Not may have, it does have. I mean, we've learned over the past 5 years that it does have. So I thought that with the intent of what we're trying to say is that we say things that are true and not put it in a question. You know what I'm saying? So in other
Yes.
words,
I don't think anyone is disagreeing with you. These are
no. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with me
Yeah.
either.
These
I'm
are just
saying
statements that
yeah.
came from multiple documents. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah, I think that was from our conversation when we were reviewing like our new chapter leadership structure, which was pretty new, but like when this group started before COVID, because they had just implemented like the new structure of local boards and leadership councils. And we discovered a whole bunch of obstacles that shouldn't be there
Right.
as we were looking through those documents.
Right. So the language obviously is completely out of, not even just out of context, it's an inaccurate statement. But the collection in this Google document are all the random notes I have pulled out of examples. So when the chapter qualifications, this is an example of one of the conversations that wasn't decided without going through the car wash. Does that make sense? So that's why it's included in this document. It would
Very
not
much
be
so.
the specifics of any of the conversations don't necessarily go into the charter or the mission of the committee or the task force, whatever this ends up being called. That's an example of a conversation that must be had by this group, so that all of these biases are checked. Especially if most of the people originating in the conversation, if they don't have a DUI and or a marijuana related charge, then they shouldn't be making a final decision about whether that impacts membership or not. Other thoughts or comments? Yeah, I'm noticing that you're sticking kind of to this outline format, and that's just how it cut and pasted over. So none of this is final. These are just some like starting points of thoughts. I would imagine that we would end up with a sentence, maybe two or so, of what is the point or the purpose of this particular group. Is this group actually called the Fuck Shit Up Committee? What does it do? Who joins? How often does it meet? How do you kick people off? How do you recruit new members? Those kind of things. Again, this is just cut and pasted notes from a gazillion. I have probably 47 tabs open from every conversation I've ever had over the 4 years that I just tried to like cull together. Related somehow in that context was the role that Fuck Shit Up plays within the guild or the foundation.
Yeah, I'm just kind of jotting down notes from in red that people have said.
Yeah, sure. Eventually I'll be able to go through this and like smush it into a paragraph with some delineated subjects, and then I'll share that back out with everybody else, and then half the group will have never seen it before and half the group will, what the fuck is this? And then you'll change it. But then it actually came from this group instead of me just dictating it. I don't know what y'all want it to be.
So looking on here, is there anything that anybody wants to include that is not currently on there that they can think of? And I know a lot of you are on your phones. That's why I'm not on my phone. So yeah, that's why I was just adding it in.
It might also be interesting, just because we have about 9-ish minutes left of today's call. When I send out an email with this recording and this link, Jo Beth can send out a text message alerting people that there's an email pending. Is there better language than I have used in this particular call today? Is there better language to introduce what we are trying to do in drafting a charter or a mission for the committee, right? Like I might be so embedded in how associations govern themselves that I'm not using accessible language. So I want to make sure that the directions that go out in this email that very few of y'all will ever open. But maybe you'll surprise me and actually open it. Maybe. That the directions of what you're looking at also make sense in the context, because opening the email and watching the recording is really shooting for the moon.
Yeah, that's a little out there. You know that, Jess.
I do. I totally know that. So then
I'm glad you're aware.
It's taken 4 years. If you only knew how frustrated I was in year one.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Oh my God, year one, I wanted to kill all of you collectively. But I'm learning.
We're so charming, though.
What's funny is that does not work on me at all. Yeah, don't care. I don't drink.
It's true.
And
yeah.
I don't care. I do like food, but food is really tertiary. Okay. I do want the world from you. That is true. So then, and Joe Beth, you are doing a great job of capturing people's notes. Thank you again for that. So if you are one of the 10, 15 other people who will receive this email who were not on this call and will not watch the recording, what language would you use? Let's say someone's bored and they open the Google Doc on their computer. What language would you use to give the assignment of we are starting a mission statement draft-ish to describe how fuck shit up works that would make sense to someone who was not on this call?
What's wrong with just what you said?
Oh, one, I didn't type it. That's probably the biggest thing.
Gonna have to watch that video.
I know. I have to watch my own damn video. No, that's probably good. I think I remember what I said. I also don't know what's like, because I work with so many associations and stuff, if the language I'm using makes sense or not to other people. So mission. I'm typing Mary.
You got a good suggestion in the chat.
Urgent, look below to continue fucking shit up. Oh, is that the language, Brandon? Is that the language for the email?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, that'll actually get people to read it.
Y'all are you have like corrupted my brain so much that I thought this was like some kind of like genitalia joke or something. I was like, I don't get it. We're
So,
drafting.
like,
hey.
Joe Beth, did you type the thing about like the rest of the organization's accountability to us? Because that's also something that I feel like needs to be very clear in this document for sure. That we're not just giving our opinions into a void that doesn't have to respond.
Okay. Oh, hold on. What happened? What did I just do? What do you want me to type?
Oh no, I was just asking who typed that.
Oh no, I didn't type that.
Everything just says anonymous.
I know, anonymous.
I definitely think that is an important key part to whatever our charter is how the rest of the organization is accountable to things that we respond.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lena, that was me, Brandon.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's something that we've talked about from the start is like, it doesn't matter how we feel about these things if like they don't have to be acted upon.
Oh. You can put that back in there, Brandon, maybe just use a different color. I think most of the time when we edit these, we just like choose a color and use that. So she can see, oh, these are different people who put this in.
Right.
And you can even put at the bottom, with your name in that color if you want.
Yeah, I try really hard when I write these kind of documents to really keep it in the members' language, because ideally you're the one who's directly impacted by it. So then knowing what was there and what isn't there and is very, very helpful for me. Thank you for that. Okay, so I put at the top, 4 minutes, Joe Beth. So I put at the top, we are drafting a mission statement / charter for the Fuck Shit Up Committee. Please open this Google Doc and add your comments on, and then I have 5 questions. What does the Fuck Shit Up Committee do? How does the committee work? Who can be on the committee? Who can't be on the committee? And how are people recruited or removed? Can you think of other like large scale questions that would be helpful? I'm imagining some like cut and pasting will occur inside each of those questions or something. And then I'll have to draft up a something. Raul, I know you're in a noisy place, but I'm curious, when thinking about other task force or other committees, are there other structural things that we would need to add in off the top of your head? Otherwise, I'll go look at the bylaws.
From my experience, it's just been, as long as you have a mission statement, a charter, that's pretty much it. As far as how you recruit people and kick people on and off and that kind of stuff, that's handled within committee. So as far as the board's concerned, when we get stuff like that, what's their mission statement, their charter, what are they doing? Let's look at it. Great. That's pretty much what I've been exposed to, whether or not that is always the case.
Perfect. All right, that's helpful to me because I try to have these conversations without loading up with like the specifics of the association first. By Joe Beth, happy appointment. I try to do that so that I'm not biased by what everybody does, because the whole point of the fuck shit up is to not do what everybody does. But also we have to do what at least most people do in order to cover the bases so that it's not questioned.
Yeah, that's like the base, like ministerial stuff that we have to do, like the admin work would be coming up with that. And then, we can, within that mission statement and charter, it can be, our purpose can be broad and varied, as long as it rounds back out to the mission statement of being the sounding board, the contrarian view, whatever we end up landing on.
Right. Excellent. All right. Well, in light of my promise of being 1 hour long, I will do this recording, send it out with this link. We do have a meeting in August, and let me check really quick when it is, unless somebody wants to beat me to it. August 9th. Jeffrey, just so you know, it was agreed earlier in the year that Tuesdays from 11 to 2 Pacific time was the generally best time of the people who are on the committee. So when I send out doodles, they will always be Tuesdays from 11 to 2. It's just which Tuesday from 11 to 2 that we will be meeting. The next meeting is August 9th. And we don't have one scheduled for September. We will not be meeting on the 6th because I will be camping on my birthday. But that's what we have currently. But there's a national board retreat is the 13th of September. FYI. So somebody was going to say something?
Yeah, I was. That's perfect because it's right after Tails, and the places that I work at, we're going to be closed for at least a week after Tails. So, but I'm going to try to get the fuck out of town. But I'll bring my computer with me because Tails is just going to be a shit show down here.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's something that you've never had to deal with, which is actually kind of fun. So, Tales of the Cocktail, if you've never been.
I almost virtually presented last year, but I haven't ever been in person. But,
gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, please, pretty please, feel free to continue puttering around on this sheet, and I will send out the link again. And I don't know what we're talking about in August yet. Stay tuned. It might be this, it might be something else. I don't know. But my hope is if I go to the board retreat that they're having in the middle of September, it'd be really nice to be able to say, like, we sort of started something. Brandon, are you giving me an okay sign or a white power sign?
Okay.
Just counting to 3. Nothing is sacred anymore.
Brandon's white power all the way, so it's all good. We understand, Brandon. We do.
Just because I live in Arizona. Yeah.
You're marginalized down there in Arizona, so I get it.
What were you trying to say? Or were you just giving... like,
I was just wiping my eyes.
just wiping your eyes. That's what they all say. Okay. I'm trying very hard to create some kind of humorous moments while democracy is crumbling around my ankles. If it is helpful, this is not the first time that all of this has occurred. It's just happening again. Any other wistful, positive, optimistic thoughts?
And yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Shitty thoughts, anger thoughts, anything you can think of?
Yes, Jeff. I'm not wearing a hat. I haven't gone outside yet today. I'm sorry.
All right. August 9th, be there, be square, and I will send an email out shortly.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you all. Try to be safe as you can, whatever that means for you.
Bye, everybody.
Jeffrey, thanks for coming. I know we're a fun, rowdy bunch.
Thanks for having me.
Can't wait.
Jeff.
Peace.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Enjoy. Bye.
Well.